So, I've got something exciting for you liberty-minded digital nomads out there. Welcome to another episode of Disruptarian Radio, where we explore ways to break free from the conventional and, live life on your own terms.
Hey everyone, good to be back with you all.
Today we're diving into something I'm personally, really passionate about. Living as a digital nomad in the Philippines. It's this incredible Southeast Asian paradise that's becoming a hotspot for remote workers.
I'm so excited about this topic. The Philippines has been on my radar for a while now. Those gorgeous beaches and wow, the cost of living compared to the States is it's incredible.
And let's not forget the practical side. The internet infrastructure has improved so much in recent years. I mean, that's absolutely essential for anyone working remotely, right?
Exactly. We'll be covering everything from finding remote work opportunities that pay in USD to the lifestyle benefits, visa situations, and all those practical considerations you need to know before packing your bags.
And who better to guide us through this than our very own Dickie, who's been doing the remote work thing since, 1999? Before it was even, a thing people talked about.
That's right. So let's jump right in and explore how you can ditch the cubicle and start working from those beautiful Philippine beaches. Yeah, so before we dive too deep into the specifics, I should probably give you guys some context about my background with this whole remote work lifestyle.
Absolutely. You've been at this game for over 2 decades now?
That's right. I've been doing this remote work thing since 1999. I mean, way before it was trendy, Back when most people were still trapped in cubicles and struggling with those awful dial-up modems. Remember those weird connection sounds?
Oh my God, I can still hear them in my nightmares.
Right, and during that time, I've worked with some pretty big companies. I was with Talyst Inc. for a while, handling their stuff completely remotely while traveling.
That's impressive. Most companies back then weren't exactly open to remote arrangements.
They definitely weren't, but I think that's what helped me. Well, it helped me understand how to make this lifestyle sustainable. I mean, I've literally built multiple businesses from scratch. SLU2.com, spunwebtechnology.com, assignmeyourtasks.com, all while just working from my laptop.
And you've done this from how many countries now?
16 countries and counting. And, countless beach towns in between. The Philippines has definitely been one of my favorite spots, though.
What makes the Philippines stand out compared to other digital nomad destinations you've experienced?
Well, I've worked U.S. contracts from a rooftop in Cebu, built businesses while drinking buko juice in Batangas. There's something really special about earning in dollars but spending in pesos. The lifestyle upgrade is it's incredible.
I can imagine that currency arbitrage must make a huge difference.
Absolutely. I've watched people completely transform their financial situations, going from living paycheck to paycheck to suddenly having this, abundance just by flipping the script and working remotely from the Philippines.
So you're basically living proof that this isn't just some theoretical concept. You've actually made it work for decades.
Exactly. When I talk about making a living online from the Philippines, I'm not guessing or repeating something I read somewhere. I've lived it. I've solved the problems. I've found the shortcuts. And most importantly, I've seen what actually works versus what's just hype.
So Dickie, let's talk resumes. I mean, most people looking to land remote jobs probably need to level up their resume game, right?
Oh, absolutely. Let's be honest here. Most resumes, they suck. I mean, they're generic, outdated, and make people look like they haven't touched a computer since, Friendster was a thing.
Friendster, now that's taking me back.
Right? But seriously, though, your resume needs to sell you. You want clean layout, sharp language, and absolutely no fluff. It's about showing people what you've actually done and what you're capable of doing for them.
So, what are the essentials people should focus on?
So first, you need a simple layout. No photos, no crazy fonts. Just clean and professional. Second, your content needs to be tailored. You've got to match the job description, use their language, mirror their needs. And third, which is probably the most important, focus on achievements over tasks.
Can you break that down a bit more? What's the difference?
Yeah, so instead of saying something vague like managed emails, you should say something specific like reduced client churn 18% by optimizing support workflows. See the difference? One just lists a duty, the other shows impact.
That makes so much sense. How about tools? Are there any resources that can help people create better resumes?
Actually, I personally use ChatGPT to write and revise resumes. It gives me structure and then I customize it to make it real. There are also some great AI tools specifically for resumes that I recommend.
Like what?
Well, there's Rezi, which is great for beating those ATS bots that screen your resume before a human sees it. KickResume has amazing templates and real-world examples you can tweak. Zeddy offers instant writing tips with live editing features.
Any others worth mentioning?
Yeah, Teal is fantastic for managing multiple resume versions with job matching tools. And in HanCV, it adds storytelling to your profile without losing that professional edge.
And these work well for remote job applications specifically?
They do, especially when you combine them with ChatGPT. It's a powerful combo. You build your draft, refine it with these tools, and then start sending it out. The key thing to remember is, for remote work especially, employers need to see that you're organized, detail-oriented, and can communicate clearly.
I imagine highlighting any previous remote experience is crucial too.
Absolutely. Even if it wasn't officially remote work, think about projects where you collaborated with people in different locations or managed your own time effectively. Those skills directly translate to remote work capabilities and you should definitely emphasize them.
Any final advice on the resume front?
Yeah, just remember that your resume is often the first impression you make. In the remote world, that first impression is everything. So take the time to get it right. It's worth the investment. So now that you've got your resume all sorted out, let's talk about where to actually find these jobs, right? There are a ton of job boards out there, but honestly, many of them are just noise.
I've noticed that. It can be really overwhelming trying to figure out which platforms are actually worth the time.
Exactly. And I've personally worked through several platforms over the years, so I know which ones actually get results, especially for folks in the Philippines looking to get paid in dollars.
So what's your top recommendation, Dickie?
I'd say Upwork is still one of the best. I've used it myself for long-term contracts. The key is to start small, build up your reputation, and then scale up. The verification process can be a bit tedious, but it's worth it because clients trust the platform.
I've heard OnlineJobs.ph is specifically designed for Filipino freelancers. Have you had any experience with that one?
Oh, absolutely. It's built specifically for Filipino remote workers, and U.S. clients absolutely love it. The rates are generally better than local opportunities, and you don't have to compete with the entire global workforce like on some other platforms.
What about Fiverr? I know a lot of creatives use that one.
Fiverr is great, especially if you're in creative fields or coding. The beauty of Fiverr is that you create specific services, and clients come directly to you. It flips the traditional job application process on its head, which can be really refreshing, you know?
Are there any platforms for more high-level professional work?
For sure. TopTal is excellent for high-level talent. It's pretty competitive to get in. They only accept like the top 3% of applicants, but the pay is definitely worth it. We're talking rates that are 3 to 5 times higher than your average freelance platform.
How about LinkedIn? Is that useful for finding remote work?
LinkedIn is actually super underused for remote work. A lot of people think of it as just a networking site, but it's become a powerful job platform. Connect with recruiters directly, use the jobs feature, and make sure your profile clearly states you're open to remote opportunities.
Any other platforms worth mentioning?
There are several. Freelancer.com is similar to Upwork, but often more flexible with entry-level opportunities. We Work Remotely has curated remote-only jobs with legitimate U.S. companies. Remote OK is tech-focused and growing really fast.
How about more niche platforms?
Two that are really worth checking out are Hubstaff Talent, which has no fees and is straightforward. Lots of startups use it. And Outsourcely, which is good for steady roles in marketing, development, admin, and support. They tend to focus more on long-term relationships rather than just gigs.
Do you have any tips for using these platforms effectively?
Absolutely. First, complete your profile 100%. Half-done profiles get ignored. Second, be incredibly specific about your skills. Don't just say writer, say SaaS email copywriter or whatever your specialty is. And third, respond quickly to messages. Like seriously, the difference between responding in 10 minutes versus 10 hours can literally be the difference between getting hired or not.
What about portfolio work? How important is that?
Oh, it's crucial, even if you have to do some free or discounted work at first to build samples. Do it. Clients want to see what you can do, not just read about what you claim you can do. And make sure your samples are relevant to the kind of work you're applying for. That's probably the biggest mistake I see people make.
These are great insights, Dickie. Sounds like there are plenty of legitimate options out there for Filipinos looking to work remotely.
Absolutely. The opportunities are there. You just need to know where to look and how to position yourself effectively. And remember, the goal isn't just to get any remote job. It's to find work that pays well and gives you the freedom you're looking for. Now, let's talk about something that's really important. Automating your job search. Because if you're serious about this, you can't treat it like some hobby, right? You need systems.
What do you mean by systems exactly, like scheduling time for applications?
Well, yeah, that's part of it, but I'm talking about actual automation. Like instead of spending hours and hours scrolling through job boards every day, which is just soul-crushing, you can set up tools to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
Oh, that sounds really useful. What kind of tools are we talking about?
So this is actually where my company, spunwebtechnology.com, comes in. We've developed these automation agents that help with your job search. These bots can actually auto-apply based on your skill set, filter out the low-quality listings, and monitor platforms 24/7 so you don't miss anything good.
That's fascinating. So the bots actually apply to jobs for you?
Well, they can, depending on how you set them up. The idea is to scale your efforts, you know. I built this system for myself originally because I was just getting overwhelmed with the manual process, and now others can use it too.
Are there any simpler tricks people can use if they're not ready for that level of automation?
Absolutely. One of my favorite search tricks is using specific search queries like remote jobs in the USA for Filipinos site flexjobs.com or something similar. This narrows things down incredibly well.
That's such a smart approach. Any other basic automation tips?
Set up alerts. Like, every job platform has some kind of alert system, and hardly anyone uses them effectively. You can get notifications for very specific job types as soon as they're posted, and being one of the first to apply can give you a huge advantage.
What about organizing all these applications? I imagine it gets confusing when you're applying to multiple places.
That's a great point. I use a simple spreadsheet to track everything. Where I applied, when I applied, the response, follow-ups, everything. Some people use Trello or Notion, but honestly, a basic spreadsheet works just fine. The important thing is to have a system.
Do you think it's worth spending time on multiple platforms, or is it better to focus on just one or two?
In the beginning, I'd say focus on maybe 2 or 3 platforms where your skills are most in demand. Master those completely. Set up perfect profiles. Understand how the algorithms work, and only then branch out. Quality applications beat quantity every time.
How much time should someone realistically spend on their job search each day?
With good automation, maybe an hour or 2. Without it, you could easily spend 4 to 6 hours daily and still miss opportunities. That's why I'm such a big advocate for working smarter rather than harder. Your time is valuable, especially when you're trying to build a remote career.
I imagine having these systems in place also helps prevent burnout during the job search process.
Exactly. Job searching it's mentally exhausting, right? the rejection, the waiting, the uncertainty. Having systems means you can set things up, then step away, and live your life while the automation works for you. It's all about maintaining your sanity while maximizing your chances. All right, so speaking of making life easier in the Philippines, have you guys heard about this new Digital Nomad Visa that was introduced back in April 2025?
Wait, is that actually a thing now? I didn't realize the Philippines had officially launched one.
Oh yeah, it's totally real, and honestly, it's kind of a game changer for anyone wanting to base themselves in the Philippines while working remotely. I mean, this is a rare stroke of policy genius from the government.
That's incredible! What exactly does this visa allow you to do that wasn't possible before?
So basically, it lets you live in the Philippines legally while working online for foreign companies. Before this, people were doing all kinds of visa runs or using tourist visas that weren't really, designed for people actually working. Now there's a legitimate path.
And you don't need a local employer to sponsor you or anything like that?
Exactly. That's what makes it so perfect for digital nomads. No need for a local sponsor or employer. You keep your foreign income and stay completely compliant with immigration laws. It's designed specifically for creatives, developers, consultants, and basically anyone who works online.
How long does the visa last? And are there any special requirements to qualify?
It's initially good for 1 year, and then you can renew it. As for requirements, you need to show proof of employment or clients from outside the Philippines, have health insurance that covers you in country, and demonstrate that you make enough money to support yourself, usually around 2,000 monthly income, which honestly goes pretty far here.
That sounds surprisingly straightforward compared to some other countries' digital nomad visas.
Right? And that's what I love about it. They've actually made it accessible. They understood that if they make it too complicated, people just won't bother. And they want people to come here, spend money, and contribute to the economy.
Do you have to pay Philippine taxes if you're on this visa?
That's a good question. So there's some nuance here. Since your income is coming from abroad, you're generally not subject to Philippine income tax, but you might still have tax obligations in your home country. It's always worth consulting with a tax professional who understands expat situations.
How has this visa changed things for the digital nomad community in the Philippines?
Oh man, it's been huge. Before this, there was always this kind of gray area that made some people nervous. Like, technically you weren't supposed to be working on a tourist visa, even though everyone was doing it. Now there's this sense of legitimacy. People are planning longer stays, investing in better accommodations, really settling in rather than always having one foot out the door.
I imagine this also opens up possibilities for people to experience different parts of the Philippines rather than just the major tourist areas.
Absolutely. Instead of bouncing around to different countries every few months, people are exploring places like Siargao, Bohol, Dumaguete, towns that have great internet but maybe weren't on the typical tourist circuit. These places are seeing a boom from remote workers who stay for months and really become part of the community.
For anyone listening who's interested in this visa, what would be the first step to apply?
So you'd start by applying online through the Bureau of Immigration website. Get all your documentation ready, proof of income, health insurance, passport with at least 6 months validity. The processing time is usually about 2 to 3 weeks, which is pretty quick compared to other countries. And the fee is reasonable too, around $200 for the initial application.
So with all these opportunities in the Philippines, what kind of remote jobs are actually, in demand right now? I'm curious what skills people should be focusing on.
Well, so there's actually more than enough remote work to go around, especially if you've got some basic skills like clear communication, meeting deadlines, and being able to work without someone constantly looking over your shoulder.
I've noticed virtual assistant roles seem to be everywhere these days. Is that still one of the biggest categories?
Oh, absolutely. Virtual assistant positions they're booming. And what's great is that they often serve as this perfect entry point for people new to remote work. You're basically helping business owners manage their day-to-day stuff, emails, scheduling, maybe some basic research. It's a fantastic way to get your foot in the door.
What about tech roles? I imagine web development must be pretty high on the list, too.
Tech roles they're enormous right now. Web developers, especially those familiar with WordPress, Shopify, or, front-end frameworks like React, they're in crazy high demand. And the pay can be really, really good. Like we're talking potentially 25 to 50 an hour once you've built up some experience in a decent portfolio.
In creative fields, I know a lot of Filipinos have amazing design skills.
The creative market is super hot. Graphic designers, video editors, content creators. U.S. companies are constantly looking for talent in these areas. What's particularly cool is that many Filipino creatives bring this unique aesthetic that clients find really refreshing. Plus, the time zone difference can actually be an advantage. Clients wake up to completed work.
What about content writing? There seems to be this endless need for content these days.
Content writing it's just exploding, honestly. If you've got solid English skills, you can find work writing blog posts, product descriptions, social media content. The key here is to maybe specialize in certain industries. Like if you know about health and wellness or finance or technology, those niches can pay way better than general content.
Customer support seems to be another big category, right? Especially with the reputation Filipinos have for being service-oriented.
Customer support is huge, and you're right about that reputation. U.S. companies specifically seek out Filipino support agents because of the cultural emphasis on politeness and patience. Plus, the accent is typically very neutral and easy for Americans to understand. These jobs often come with stable hours and consistent pay, which is, it's a big plus for many people.
What about some of the more specialized roles? I've heard SEO is pretty big.
SEO specialists are definitely in high demand. If you understand how search engines work and can help websites rank higher, you can command pretty good rates. Same goes for social media managers and digital marketing specialists. Companies would rather pay someone in the Philippines a good rate than pay U.S. prices for the same quality of work.
Do you need specialized education for most of these roles, or are they accessible to people looking to switch careers?
That's what's so great about this whole remote work revolution. For many of these jobs, formal education matters way less than demonstrable skills. Like if you can show a portfolio of websites you've built, or articles you've written, or designs you've created, that often counts more than a degree. There are so many online courses and resources now where you can learn these skills.
What about language requirements? I assume strong English is pretty much a must?
Yeah, decent English is definitely important for most of these roles, but I want to emphasize decent, not perfect. Clear communication is what matters. If you can express yourself well and understand instructions, that's usually enough. And your English naturally improves on the job as you work with clients.
Any other job categories that people might not immediately think of?
Project management is becoming huge. As more teams go remote, there's this growing need for people who can coordinate across time zones. Data entry is still reliable work. And tech support roles, if you're good at solving problems and explaining solutions clearly, those positions are always available. The bottom line is, if you've got decent English, can stay focused, and know how to use basic tools like Google Docs, Slack, or Trello, you're ready to go. There's something out there for almost any skill set. Now let's talk about what makes the Philippines such an attractive destination for digital nomads. I mean, the economic advantage alone is just incredible when you're earning in dollars and spending in pesos.
Oh my God, yes. I remember when I first got that feeling of seeing my USD payment hit my account and then converting it to pesos. It was like, wow, I suddenly had all this purchasing power. Can you break down some numbers for our listeners?
The exchange rate really works in your favor, doesn't it? Last time I checked, it was around 50-55 pesos to the dollar, which creates this amazing financial leverage.
Yeah, the math is pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. So If you're making, I don't know, $3,000 a month, which is fairly standard for a mid-level remote position, that's roughly 150,000 to 165,000 pesos. And in the Philippines, that goes incredibly far.
It definitely does. What kind of lifestyle can someone actually expect with that kind of income in the Philippines?
Well, for starters, you can rent a really nice condo in Manila for about, and I'm talking like a modern place with amenities, for around 25,000 to 40,000 pesos a month. That's only about $500 to $800 in USD. And if you go to smaller cities like Davao or Iloilo or, even Cebu, you'll pay even less for similar quality.
The food costs are pretty incredible too, right? I mean, especially if you're eating local.
Oh, absolutely. You can get a fantastic local meal for like 100 to 200 pesos. That's 2 to 4. Even if you want to splurge on Western food occasionally, you're still paying way less than you would in the US or Europe. I remember when I was in Batangas, I was spending maybe $300 a month on food, and I was eating really, really well.
What about transportation? I know traffic can be challenging in places like Manila, but aren't there lots of affordable options?
Transportation is ridiculously cheap. Grab rides, which is basically the Uber of Southeast Asia, might cost you 200 pesos for what would be a 15 ride in the States. And if you're comfortable with public transport, jeepneys and buses they're practically pocket change.
Let's talk about some of the lifestyle perks beyond just the cost savings. What makes the Philippines special compared to other digital nomad destinations?
The Philippines has these incredible natural landscapes that you just don't find anywhere else. You've got over 7,000 islands with some of the world's best beaches. Places like Palawan, Siargao, and Boracay they're absolutely breathtaking. And you can actually afford to live near these paradise spots on a remote worker's salary.
The internet situation is pretty crucial for digital nomads. How reliable is it across the country?
That's a really good question. So in major cities like Manila, Cebu, and Davao, the internet is actually quite decent. You can get fiber connections with speeds up to 100 Mbps or even more for about 2,500 pesos a month. That's around 50. Now, if you're planning to work from some of the more remote islands, you'll definitely want to check the connectivity first or have backup options like mobile data.
What about the community aspect? Is it easy to meet other digital nomads and expats?
The community is actually one of my favorite things about being a digital nomad in the Philippines. There are these amazing co-working spaces popping up everywhere, in Manila, Cebu, even in smaller places like Bohol, and they regularly host meetups, workshops, networking events. You'll find this mix of both foreign digital nomads and local Filipino remote workers, which creates this really diverse, collaborative environment.
And the Filipino people themselves are known for being incredibly welcoming, right?
That's honestly one of the biggest perks. Filipinos are just extraordinarily friendly and accommodating. Most people speak English, so there's minimal language barrier, and there's this natural hospitality that makes it so much easier to settle in compared to some other countries. You don't feel like an outsider for very long.
What about healthcare? That's always a concern when living abroad.
Healthcare is surprisingly good and affordable. In major cities, you've got these world-class hospitals where you might pay, a tenth of what you'd pay in the US for the same treatment. Many digital nomads just pay out of pocket because it's so inexpensive, but there are also affordable health insurance options specifically for expats.
Any downsides we should mention to give a balanced picture?
Well, yeah, we should be realistic. The bureaucracy can be frustrating sometimes. Things move a bit slower. The traffic in Manila is no joke, and during rainy season, flooding can be an issue in certain areas. But honestly, the pros so dramatically outweigh the cons for most people I know who've made the move.
It sounds like the combination of earning in dollars while enjoying this beautiful, affordable country is really the sweet spot for digital nomads.
It absolutely is. I've lived and worked remotely in 16 countries now, and I keep coming back to the Philippines. There's something special about being able to finish your workday and just walk to a stunning beach or hop on a cheap flight to an island paradise for the weekend. That kind of freedom and quality of life is what being a digital nomad is all about. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that's really important but often overlooked, navigating the cultural landscape in the Philippines. Because, it's not just about the economics and the beautiful beaches. It's also about, actually integrating into Filipino society.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one of the challenges that catches people off guard. When I first arrived, I thought that because so many Filipinos speak English, the cultural adjustment would be easy. But there were definitely some learning curves.
There's this concept of Filipino time that took me a while to get used to. Can you explain that, Dickie? You've been here the longest.
Yeah, so Filipino time is this cultural approach to punctuality that's, it's different from what most Westerners are used to. Meetings might start 30 minutes late, and that's completely normal. It's not considered rude at all. I remember when I first got here, I was getting frustrated showing up exactly on time for everything, and then waiting and waiting. Eventually, I learned to just, go with the flow.
What about building relationships? I noticed business seems much more relationship-focused here than task-focused.
I learned that the hard way on a project last year. How do you suggest handling that particular challenge?
I've found that instead of asking yes/no questions like, do you understand? It's better to say something like, could you explain back to me how you'll approach this? That gives people a chance to clarify without losing face. And always provide a way for people to ask questions privately, like through chat rather than in a group meeting.
What about building community? Any tips for actually making friends beyond just professional contacts?
Food it's like the universal connector in Filipino culture. Accept invitations to meals. Learn to eat with your hands for traditional Filipino food. It's called Kamayan style. Bring pasalubong, small gifts, when you're invited to someone's home. And karaoke. I can't stress this enough. Filipinos love karaoke. Even if you're terrible at singing, just embracing it will earn you major points.
I've noticed there's a strong family orientation here, too. How does that play into building relationships?
Family is absolutely central. Sundays are typically family days, and the extended family concept is much stronger here than in Western countries. People might live with their parents well into adulthood, and that's completely normal. Understanding and respecting these family bonds is crucial. Also, asking about someone's family is always a good conversation starter.
What about expat communities? How do you balance integrating with locals while also having that support system of other foreigners?
Any final cultural tips you think people should know before making the move?
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What are the actual first steps someone should take if they're serious about making this digital nomad thing happen in the Philippines? Yeah, and speaking of money, let's talk about banking, because that's something I messed up when I first started. You need to set up a good system for actually, getting paid.
Absolutely. I recommend setting up a Wise account before you leave. It lets you receive money in dollars but withdraw in Philippine pesos at really good rates. And you'll want a local bank account eventually too.
And don't forget about taxes. Just because you're working remotely doesn't mean you get to skip taxes. You'll still need to file in your home country and possibly in the Philippines depending on your visa status and how long you stay.
Oh yes, taxes are such a headache if you don't plan ahead. I work with an accountant who specializes in expat taxes, and it's been worth every penny.
What about common mistakes, things people should definitely avoid?
One big one I see is people not researching their location thoroughly. Like they'll rent a place online without checking internet speeds or proximity to essentials.
Or they'll pick a place based solely on Instagram photos. Then they arrive and realize it's super isolated or the infrastructure isn't great. I always tell people to join Facebook groups for expats in their target city and ask real questions before committing. We have our own group, Expat News Philippines, on Facebook.
Another mistake is underestimating visa requirements. The Digital Nomad Visa is great, but until you get that, you need to plan your visa runs and extensions carefully. I once had to make an emergency flight to Singapore because I miscounted my days.
I think another big pitfall is trying to maintain the same work schedule as back home. If you're working with U.S. clients but living in the Philippines, that time difference can be brutal unless you adjust.
Definitely. I eventually shifted to working from about 4 p.m. until midnight Philippine time to overlap with U.S. business hours. It took some getting used to, but it made client communication so much smoother.
What about workspace setups? That's something I wish someone had told me about sooner.
Good call. Don't assume you'll be productive working from your apartment or hotel. Scout out co-working spaces or cafe options. Most major cities like Manila, Cebu, and even Davao have great co-working spaces now with reliable internet and backup generators. Our last apartment complex in Cebu, the Enzuri, had a great co-working space and meeting room.
And bring the right equipment, like a good laptop with long battery life, noise-canceling headphones, and maybe even a portable Wi-Fi device as backup. Power outages happen, so having alternatives is essential.
What resources would you recommend for people who want to learn more or connect with other digital nomads in the Philippines?
The Digital Nomads Philippines Facebook group has been invaluable for me. There's also the Nomad List website that has specific information about different cities, including cost of living, internet speeds, and safety ratings.
And don't forget about local resources like the Department of Tourism website. They actually have a lot of practical information for long-term visitors that can help you understand different regions before you commit to one.
So, wrapping this all up, guys, what are the key takeaways here for our listeners who are thinking about, taking the plunge into the digital nomad lifestyle in the Philippines?
I think the biggest thing is just start somewhere. You don't need to have everything figured out perfectly. The Philippines is incredibly welcoming, and there's now actual legal infrastructure with that digital nomad visa to support this lifestyle.
Exactly. And remember that this isn't a vacation. It's a lifestyle change that requires some planning. But the freedom you get in return is, well, it's absolutely worth it. Earning in dollars while living on the beautiful beaches of Palawan or in the vibrant cities like Cebu, that's tough to beat.
And don't forget to leverage all the tools we talked about. From resume builders to those job platforms and search automation, the technology exists to make this transition so much easier than when Dickie first started back in the Stone Age.
Hey, I resent that accurate statement.
The truth hurts sometimes, man.
But seriously, the Philippines offers this amazing combination of affordability, beautiful locations, and really friendly people that makes it perfect for remote workers.
I just add that like any big life change, this is going to have ups and downs. There will be days when your internet cuts out during an important meeting or when you really miss certain comforts from home. But speaking from experience, the lifestyle freedom you gain is transformative.
That's really what Disruptarian Radio is all about, right? Finding these pathways to freedom that might seem unconventional, but can completely change your life. The Philippines has been that pathway for me and for many others.
Absolutely. And we're here to help anybody who wants to follow in those footsteps.
So, thanks everyone for tuning in to today's episode. If you found this helpful, please share it with anyone who might be dreaming about escaping the cubicle life. And until next time, keep disrupting the status quo. This is Dickie Thompson, and I'd like to thank all of our guests today for their insight and stories of being digital nomads. The world has become a lot smaller since the revolution of remote work and internet tools. I have been blessed to have been able to take my 4 children to more than 12 countries on 4 continents, and I have been able to sustain a decent lifestyle in those travels. Before we sign out here today, I'd like to share with you our family travel website, www.where'sthemap.info. We have captured and shared some amazing moments and drone photography at that website. As always, stay free and stay disruptive. Take care of each other out there.
Met her in Cebu City on a hot December night. Dark brown eyes, yeah, shining so bright. Took one look, saw a crease off by her side. I was doomed, cause she hit me with a smile like a typhoon. But she said, you ain't got no bun me flow. Better learn to eat bagoong, don't say no. Took me to the Turo spot, man. Now I'm sweating from the spice, begging for a fan. Ooh, she's got me lost in translation. Love is sweet but full of complication. I say, Mahakita, she just laughs at me. Guess love's a game in the Philippines. Mama said, boy, you need a steady job. Tito said, no tattoos, you look like a slob. But her Lola just winked, said give him a chance. Now we're dancing in the streets, baby Dylan on the way in a reggae trance. But she said no more red horse, you drink too much, and if you flirt